What is going on, everyone? Thank you for checking out another SGN video where it's all Sam all the time, and it is officially Madden season with the EA Play trial dropping today. A little bit later for me on PlayStation. Wasn't very happy about it because I've been excited to bring you this video. I spent the first hour and a half of my trial making this video for you guys, so I really would appreciate it if you like the video for me, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. I got a lot more Madden 22 content coming your way. I got a lot of things planned for this year. I'm really excited, and of course this video is the 5 best teams to rebuild in Madden 22, and these are going to be in order, 5 being the easiest, 1 being the hardest. And there were 4 factors that went into how I determined this list. And this is, of course, using the most updated roster. I didn't change anything as far as the amount of superstars or stars or X factors, which I know you can customize inside franchise. I left it all default so that it was 100% how EA released the game. But those 4 factors were this. Number 1, counted up how many X factors and superstars and stars a team had. So those 3 things. Number 2, their cap space. Sitting right now, how much caps room they have, because that is important when you play 1 year. I mean, a rebuild you think is going to be more than 1 year, but if you want to look at how much cap space you have going into the next year. Number 3, we looked at upcoming free agents. So who are they going to lose that they might have to re-sign with their cap space? That is a big factor that determines what they can do in free agency, or if their roster is going to get worse. And the last but not least thing, the number 4 thing, is we counted up how many 90s and 80s overall players that they had in their roster. See how really good their roster is in the upper echelon, 80 and above. So those 4 factors went into determining how I made this list. And so basically we're going to start with number 5. We're going to go ahead, and the camera's going to swivel over, and I'm going to break down team number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and explain to you why they're in each place and why I think any of these 5 teams are great to start a franchise with if you're looking for that rebuild experience. There were initially 8 teams that I did this breakdown for, and 3 of them got kicked out. I guess these are 3 teams you could consider honorable mentions, I guess. And those were the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Steelers. Basically because they were too good. they had superstars or stars. Their talent level was a little bit higher than the rest of these. They had more cap room, whatever you want to look at. Those were the 3 honorable mention teams that I ended up cutting when I broke it down and made this list. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you stick around for more content. Let's get right into team number 5. Alright, so team number 5, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, although they are the lowest rated team on this list at a 73 overall, they ended up being, in my opinion, the easiest team to rebuild. Now I'll break down kind of why. So they do have 0 X factors, but they do have 2 superstars and 10 stars on their roster. Now, what made them, in my opinion, become one of the easier teams to rebuild and the easiest of this list is that they are going to have $58.9 million, or they currently have $58.9 million in cap space, and their upcoming free agents aren't really that big, in my opinion, as far as terms of loss. You got Foyesade Olukun, who I've never heard of, can't even pronounce his name, Hayden Hurst, and then Duron Harmon. So those 3 are the best players that they're having as far as upcoming free agents. Now, I do want to make it clear, I kind of didn't in the intro, I did not include kickers or punters as far as star count or on upcoming free agents because they're special teams, we don't care. And the team has 80 overall. So as far as where this team is sitting, 60 million cap space, plus you're not really losing anybody, and that's just going to make it kind of easy to go ahead and just jumpstart. They have one of the better rosters as far as going forward, and a lot of cap space to do stuff with. So the Atlanta Falcons are number 5 on this list for the rebuild. Number 4, the Detroit Lions. Now, It was really hard. They could have been number 5, but honestly, we're gonna give them number 4, even though their teams overall is better. And here's why: they do not have any X factors. In fact, none of the teams do. But they don't have any superstars. They have 11 stars on their roster, but they have 68.8 million in cap space. Lots of cap room there. They are kind of tied down with Jared Goff's contract, and he's just a normal dev trait, so that kind of sucks for them. But their roster is, in my opinion, worse going forward than the Falcons. They have less talent, even though their overall is currently better. And with the extra 10 million in cap, here's who they're losing: upcoming free agents, Brashad Perriman, Deshaun Hand. Okay, and Tyrell Crawford. I mean, nothing that stands out. You're like, oh my God, they got to get this person back. All those players are very replaceable, especially when you're looking at almost $70 million in cap space. But because they don't have any superstars, and that's why I think they're a little bit harder than the Falcons at number 4 on this list. Next, number 3. Cincinnati Bengals, and number 3 with the Bengals and the number 2 team. I had a tough time. It was like, which one would be 3, which one would be 2? They could honestly be interchangeable, but I'll explain when I get to number 2 why they are number 2. But right now, Bengals are number 3, and kind of go over their team breakdown. They are a 77 overall. They have 0 X factors. They have 2 superstars and 13 stars. Now, right when I tell you that, you're gonna be like, Chris, that's better than Detroit. That's better than Atlanta. And you're right. That is better. But here's the key difference when we think about doing a rebuild. There's two factors to this. Number 1, they only have 43.8 million in cap space. So you're looking at 10 million less than the Falcons, 15 million less than the Falcons, and 25 million less than the Lions. That's number 1. Okay, so they don't have nearly as much money to do things with. Number 2, when you look at their upcoming free agents, Jesse Bates, okay? He's their best player. He's going to demand a lot of that money, that 43 million. You got to have Jesse Bates. You got Auden Tate, and you got Larry Ohunjo. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but anyway, he's a defensive tackle. He's a good young player for them. So you have actually 3 players that, honestly, you probably want to retain all of them. And so when you look at how good Jesse Bates is and how good Larry Ohunjo is, he is a star dev trait. When you have 43.8 million, how much are you really going to have left, to go and improve that roster? They have 190 overall, which is Jesse Bates, and then they have 580 overall, same as the Detroit Lions. So, in my opinion, they are harder going forward. You're probably going to win more games with them in the first year, but improving the roster going forward is going to be harder with retaining Jesse Bates and retaining Larry, whatever his last name is, and then trying to add some extra pieces. So that is why, in my opinion, for rebuild, they are harder than the Falcons and the Lions, because it's not just year 1, people. We're looking at year 2, year 3, how they're set up for the future. So Bengals are, in my opinion, the 3rd hardest team for a rebuild in Madden 22. Next, team number 2, which again is back and forth with the Bengals at number 3, and that's the Jets. And I'll ultimately tell you why I went ahead and gave the Jets number 2. But let's kind of go over some stats. They have a 77 overall, just like the Bengals. They have 1 superstar, where the Bengals have 2 superstars. They do have 12 stars on their roster compared to the Bengals that have 13. So when you add that up, you have 15 combined superstars and stars for the Bengals and only 13 for the Jets. That's one factor which made me put them as a harder replacement. They have 0 players in the 90s. The Bengals had 1, and the Jets have 7 players in the 80s, where the Bengals have 5. So there's, the roster kind of there is a little bit similar. But here's the biggest difference: the Jets do have 48.9 million in cap space, but they're losing Marcus May, Jay Crowder, and John Franklin Myers. Now, in my opinion, those aren't players. Marcus May is probably the main one that you want to go bring back, but he's a little bit older. He's not going to demand the money that Jesse Bates does. And if you don't want it, you could probably replace him. So the way I look at it, the Jets are harder. They don't have as good of a roster. John Franklin Myers is definitely going to be somebody that you're going to want to go bring back. So they're going to be very similar as far as not a lot of cap space, to make a huge splash. You're going to be able to maybe add pieces here and there. But their roster isn't as good as the Bengals, and that's why they are number 2 on this list. Number 1, I think most people could guess number 1 on this list, and it really, when I was going through and I was looking at everything, I was like, holy crap, like, this is insane, like, how bad they are. Like, I don't want to touch this team with a 10-foot pole in a Madden franchise. Like, I literally don't. You guys know me. I like to play. I don't like dome teams. I like cold weather teams. I mean, so this, not only does this team have the opposite of that, but they're just horrible. And that's the Houston Texans. Now, they are a 77 overall, but that overall is really inflated from Deshaun Watson and Laramie Tunsil. And that's it, man. That's all they really have. It inflates their roster so much. You take one of those guys away, and they're going to be so bad. Anyway, so they have 0 X factors. They have 0 superstars. Yeah, Deshaun Watson is not a superstar. And they only have 8 star players on their roster. 8. Every other team's double digits. Every other team. 8. They only have $45.9 million, which is, I mean, the second least on this list, just behind the Bengals. They're losing some decent players too. They're losing Desmond King, Phillip Lindsay, and Justin Reed. So you could say Phillip Lindsay's not that important to bring back, but Desmond King and Justin Reed are definitely really good defenders that you're going to want to bring back. I mean, especially if you're trying to keep the defense relevant, you know what I mean? And so when you look at, they only have $45.9 million cap space, and you look at least 2 defensive players that you're going to want to bring back, they're not going to have a lot of cap space to do much. And then their roster is just piss poor anyway. I mean, outside of 8 stars, they only have 190 overall and 680 overall players. So there's just not much talent there. Not a lot of cap space to go ahead and do stuff in year 2 and 3, especially if you retain your defense. Now, you think about it. If you let Desmond King and Justin Reed walk, okay, so your team overall is going to drop a lot more, and then you're going to have $45.9 million. You spend that money to go and replace them, your team's still not going to get that much better. And so this is just a really tough situation for anybody to take over in franchise. It's not going to be me. I do not like playing inside. I do not like playing in warm weather. I love weather games, which you don't get when you're inside, or down south you get nice weather all the time. So Texans, I'm not going to be messing with them, but if you do, best of luck to you. Anyway, guys, that is it for the video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Keep in mind I have a lot more content planned. I got, obviously, gameplay sliders are going to come, but I'm really going to hold off on that until we get our big day 1 patch when it releases next week. I'll start working on them a little bit, but it's not going to be anything I'm trying to push out now because that patch changes everything. And then, of course, I got best franchise settings coming up. I'll got a lot of things, planned for this year. So please subscribe to the channel if you aren't. Please like this video. And otherwise, that's it for me. So if you can always stay tuned to the next video. Peace.